they are called. They are also part of this. So if you truly want to do a karma yoga, nitya and naimittik dono aate hain usme. You know, so. And then the third one is they are desire prompted kamya karma bolte hain. But kamya means but doing with dharma. If you have some desire, you can fulfill those, because in the beginning stages of karma yoga, we have to admit we do have desires, but they do it in a dharma, usko dharma ko dhyan mein rakhte hue, and that's permitted. Okay, you can do it. Because, we have come in this body, there are needs of the body and things like that. You can fulfill all that. So all that is going to come in the next verse. Okay? So this is just to introduce you to, whoever wants to read can read ahead and all that, and that way it helps also in the class. But we have 5-10 minutes, so anybody has any question on or comment or want to add anything for these concepts of Bhagavad Gita? The floor is open.
So I have a couple of things I wanted to say.
Sure.
One was is related to the book I was writing, and it is dated May of 2017, that a group wants to study with them Mandukya Upanishad. And I'm writing here that I have no message from Shiv that I can attend or not. So, and then it happened that I attended. So that was one comment I had.
Interesting. You're talking about our group, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm at that spot now in the book. So
interesting. Very interesting, yeah.
The other one was, it's so interesting that the way you explained the thing about, let me see how I explain. So I was at a stage one time when I always dependent on somebody telling me what to do. Somebody means, ऊपर से message आएगा तभी मैं करूँगा, otherwise नहीं करूँगा.
Okay.
So one situation came when my sister got very sick. She had aneurysm, stroke and all that. And I was told that I have to do some puja for her, and then she'll be okay. So I used to do this earlier, but I stopped doing that at that time. So I said, I'll go to India and I'll learn to do the mantra, So when I went there, I got this message that you don't have to ask us to do anything. You have to do it yourself. The first time I got the message. And then I did it myself and it worked.
I see.
So I know, but because I was doing in a mode that I was not doing anything. So essentially that stage comes when you start to do it because the way you are explaining it. So
how were you getting the messages?
I could distinguish between a message coming from above or somebody telling me something. That power comes in you.
Door.
And that actually happened very early in the game, because when I saw Ramakrishna in my dream in 96, that thing came with it. So then I stopped doing everything.
So the message will come as a thought or as a dream, or how?
Come in many ways. It comes by switching TV channels. It comes by this Japanese girl came and started telling me all these messages. There were so many ways, the message comes, but you know it that it is for coming from there. So actually what I defined was what I call God's divine vehicle person or God's divine vehicle event. So between those two, either the event was God defined or the person who came who gave the message. And so you'll be able to get that. But I'm just telling that from that experience, and that's what I wrote. And now I'm going back because I'm not at my state is not the same as it was that time. So I'm going through my notes and then writing them down.
I think what I'm getting from you, Joe, is that you develop that intuition. That's why you knew that what is coming from higher and not. So that's what happens, Kamalaji. Basically, you will develop that intuition within yourself as you go higher and higher in the journey. And as far as how the message comes, there are so many different people who will tell you what exactly Joe is saying, that the message can come 100 different ways because the whole world is available to you. And that I always like this. If somebody wants to know about that, read that book, Conversation with God. It starts with that same question that this person asks, hey, God, how do I communicate with you? And then as you progress in that book, you realize that if we have learned that God is everywhere, consciousness is all pervading, so God can give you from anywhere. In fact, he goes even as far as, you're looking at a tree and something is shaking and it can give you a message. If really he wants to give you a message.
Specific thing I'll tell you is the Japanese girl. She's a spiritual medium. She's 2-year-old. So I interviewed her. I said, how did you get the message? How do you know it was from Shiv? What language was it in? Like one time I remember she had gone to Virginia with her husband, and I was very sick. And then she called me from there, and then there was a fire in San Diego. And I had no muscles, so I couldn't even move. So I told them that I'm not going to move. And she called me from Virginia that you better move. So I asked her later, I said, how did you know to call me? He said, well, it's like a phone call, it rings. That Joe is not moving, you call him. And then I said, what language was it in? He said, there's no language, it's like a video, you know it. So it's very strange. So I have written all those down anyway. I had interviews with her.
Yeah, I have a similar kind of experience. Like when my husband passed away, we were going through a lot of tough times.
Right.
And there are certain situations whether I should sell my house or not, whether I should sell my business, whether I should sell my car, like, all kind of, and I was going so crazy, like, I don't know what to do. So then I will sleep at night, I'll talk to my husband and I said, I cannot handle it.
Right.
Please solve the puzzle.
Right.
And when I get up in the morning, I'll get so much clarity what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah.
That
There are many
happens
ways
true.
you can get the message, but you will know it. See, after a while you start distinguishing between what is from outside versus what you are thinking. So you have to separate you from this. I don't know how to do that, but how to say that, but you know it when you can do that. In fact, there was one thing I read about one Swami. He said, I'll go to the Swami and ask him, can I do this? And he said, okay, I'll tell you later. And then he'll come back and tell him after a day or so. Mm-hmm. So he asked him, he said, why you can't tell me right then? He said, no, I have to go and check. And when I get the message, then I tell you. And I believe that because that's the way it works.
Yeah, it's a subtle world, so it is slightly feels like off. But I think some of the intuitions we have discussed, that all of us have that, sometimes we know somewhere inside what to do and feels right. Although it is part of that same subtle world.
But it only comes when you are not when you are not connecting to yourself. So you have to be in that mode that Geeta describes.
Surrender mode, that is. To the higher.
So,
Yeah.
So that's the important part.
Okay, I'm going to switch now unless somebody has...
Can you very quickly explain what mode? So one is saying Geeta mode, one is saying Karma Yoga. So what mode exactly?
They both are same, Meera ji. Because when you are talking about karma mode में क्या बोला उन्होंने? Main components क्या कर्म योग के? ये है ना कि surrender. Firstly find out what you should be doing and then devote it to God. So when you say Geeta mode or this surrender में सब आ जाएगा ना वो. एंड जैसे जैसे प्योरीफाई होएगा माइंड, आपको ऑटोमेटिकली क्लैरिटी आएगी कि क्या करना है मुझे, और वो आपका जो डिसीजन होगा ना उसमें आपको रिग्रेट्स नहीं होंगे फिर. That's another very very important thing.
You are not doing that. You are not yourself doing that. See, that's the main point. Like Arjun, he was killing, but he was not killing. That's what he told him. So he was being used as an instrument.
Thank you. Yeah, it's much more clear now. Yeah, thank you.
Any other question anybody has on this? Okay, so we finished verse 26 where Nachiketa is saying that he's describing that these in this world, whatever things that are there, they decay and you don't even know if they'll be there tomorrow.
We have to first do the prayer.
Oh yeah, okay. Thank you. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you, Niluji. So he was talking about Nachiketa is वो टस से मस नहीं हो रहा है. He wants to still continue with the same one, and he's giving logic to Yamraji that whatever things are there in this world, because he gave him so many carrots in front of him, ये दूंगा वो दूंगा, असर की अप्सराएं भी दे दूंगा. He said जो भी आप दोगे, that doesn't last too long. And then even if somebody indulges, their senses get weak, you get all sick, and there's a limit to how much you can do. And even though you give somebody a very long life, usko wo short hi lagti hai. Tejuman did a very great joke. He said ki there was a lady who was 106 years old, right? So usko interview liya uska. बोला कि क्या आप कोई तो क्या मतलब something good in your life right now, what is the advantage of being 106 and all that? So she said, the best advantage I have is I don't have peer pressure. I thought that was a great joke. But सब चले गए. So anyway, so the longest life also looks very short. So आप ही रखो अपने पास. ये जो chariot दे रहे हो मुझे, अप्सराएं दे रहे हो, different music instruments, सब रहने दो. And then the next verse comes. So here what he's saying is a couple of things more he adds to it. For he says, wait a minute, is this the right one? Other problem is, no matter what you give a human, he's never going to be satisfied. So अगर आप मुझे सब दे भी दोगे, if I stay in that mode, I'm not going to feel satisfied. And then one very interesting insight he says कि अब मैंने आपको देख, मैं आ गया हूँ यहाँ पे, अब आप मेरे को खाली हाथ तो नहीं भेजने वाले हो. मतलब अगर मैं वो थर्ड मूड नहीं भी मांगूगा, मेरे को ऑलरेडी मिल चुका है सब कुछ. एंड देन तेजो मैन जी गए, वेरी गुड एग्जाम्पल. ही सेइंग यू गो टू योर सम अंकल्स हाउस, व्हेन यू लीव, ही डजंट लेट यू गो एम्प्टी हेडेड. कुछ ना कुछ गिफ्ट वगैरह देता है वो, और अपनी कैपेसिटी से ही देगा वो, जो भी देगा. सो खाली हाथों में जाने वाला, मैं अपना वेस्ट क्यों करूँ? आप तो वैसे ही देने वाले हो मुझे, जो आप दे रहे थे दे ही दोगे आप मुझे. कितना स्मार्ट है ना. मतलब नचिकेता इज नॉट ओनली लाइक विवेक वैराग्य उसमें, विच इज वेरी इंटेलिजेंट, and he doesn't want to waste, his thing. And then another very, very great point Tejo Menanji brought in, because some of these words over here in these words can be taken 2-3 different ways, okay? And all are correct, So he's saying कि अगर आपने मेरे को बहुत लंबी लाइफ दे दी और उन्होंने इतना भी कह दिया ना, तो इच्छा मृत्यु दे दिया, okay, you go live as much as you want. So he's saying बट मैं तो तब तक ही बना रहूंगा जब तक आप बने रहोगे. Why? Because his own post is not permanent. That is so Swami ji ne itna interesting ढंग से बोला अमित तेजोमयानंद जी ने. He said it is like you are in a company and you are a favored guy in the company. Okay, right? And so you have your position is maintained even if you are doing good or not good, you maintain because you are the favored guy. फिर मैनेजमेंट चेंज हो जाता है और वो जो नया मैनेजर आएगा वो सबसे पहले क्या करेगा, तुमको निकालेगा. Hey, this guy was a favorite of that guy. No good, get out. So it's like Nachiketa is saying, okay, you're giving me all that, but आपका ही post is temporary. तो जब नया वाला यमराज आएगा सबसे पहले मुझे भगाएगा. That was amazing insight too. He said. So he's saying, okay. So considering all these things, this boon is the most appropriate. What I'm asking. So और भी 3-4 लॉजिक दे दिए ताकि यमराज जी को पता चल जाए कि भाई this guy just doesn't want anything else, and there are some words that can be slightly different interpreted and all are correct, and one of them is that as long as you are there, no, about satisfaction, yeah, like what Swami Chinmayanand ji brought in, that the worldly things ultimately don't give you happiness. कितना भी हमको वर्ल्डली चीजें मिल जाए, so our basic deep desire is to be happy, and there is no really proportion कि भाई कुछ बहुत wealth मिल गया तो वो उसको बहुत happiness मिल गई. There's no like a correlation like that, because that is something totally different. It's more to do with your attitude in your heart, and that's why we know that people who have $1 billion also not necessarily they're the happiest people. So we have experienced that, we have seen that in the world. Any question on these points? It's not a very difficult concept. Okay, let's read the word Sanskrit. Na vitain tarpaniyo. This is verse 27 for whoever has the book. Verse 27 of Valli 1. Na vitain tarpaniyo manusyo lapsya mahe vittam adraksham chetva jivishyamo yavad ishishyasi tvam Varastu me varniya sa eva. No is not, vitain is with wealth, tarpaniya satisfied, manushyaha man, lapsya mahe we will get, vittam is wealth, atraksham have seen, chetaha if, tva thee, jivishyamaha we shall live, yavat so long, ishishyasi you rule, tvam you, varaha bone, tu is but, me is to me, varaniya is to be craved for, saha that, eva alone. Who wants to read? Okay, I guess I have to pick. Nobody's volunteering. Geeta ji, you came. You want to read? Yes? You have to unmute. I'm sorry, are you reading, Geeta ji?
Am I reading or there's some confusion?
Oh, you wanted to read,
Am I
Shireen?
reading or who's reading?
I don't know. I thought Geeta ji, I was asking if she wanted to, but you can read. That's
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, if Geeta wants to. Go ahead, Geeta.
Oh, let's see if I can unmute. No, no? Okay.
I'm having trouble. Just a minute, please.
Yeah, now I can hear you. Is that what the trouble was? You're
See,
mute.
this is the temporary unmute where I hit the space bar, but I'm not able
Yeah,
to.
right now you're okay. Just leave it at whatever it is, and
Oh,
it'll be
okay,
fine.
just hold
Yeah.
space bar.
Yeah, that's fine.
Man is not to be satisfied with wealth. Now that we have seen thee, we shall surely get wealth. We shall also live as long as you rule. Therefore, that boon alone is not worth to be craved for by me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Nachiketa, though a child, has the wisdom of a sire. He has not been living life as a dumb-driven cattle. He has lived intelligently and has been ever fully aware of all his own experiences and many of the experiences of others. Thus he has come to the sane conclusion, that mere wealth cannot and will not provide the possessor with a free passport to happiness. Here wealth means not only bank balance, debentures, and shares. The word is used here in its broadest scope to embrace every detail and item in all the possible circumstances in life.
So this is the first part of the thing. He said that, the human beings are first, it can be looked at it two different ways. One is, hey, they'll never be satisfied what you give them. And secondly, whatever you give them, that doesn't guarantee any kind of happiness. So no matter what you're giving me, it doesn't mean that I'm going to just by giving. Okay. Mm-hmm.
It is an obvious truth that by arranging the external world in which we are living, we cannot guarantee our happiness. Happiness is a state of the mind arrived at by itself during its transactions with the external setups functioning in time, place, and condition. The objects remaining the same mind can react differently upon them according to its condition at the time of the reaction. Thus, pudding which is always sweet may taste unsatisfactorily bitter when the mind that plays behind the tongue is embittered by some immediate sorrow or pain. It is in fact only a statement of truth when Nachiketa says that no man can be made happy by only wealth. This is obvious and yet rarely recognized in life. We too often meet sad rich men, and even millionaires are often known to have committed suicide.
So now everybody understood, right? And also the very interesting point he brought, that if you are really unhappy inside or some sad news is there, तुमको तुम्हारे सामने एकदम पकवान भी लाके रख दो, you're going to taste bitter. That's why we lose our appetite only. So all the things that Yamraj was offering him were these worldly things. But he's asking something for the inside, for the mind and for his soul and things like that, and more subtle, and that's more powerful than the outside world. So he wants to get to that higher state rather than all these things.
Again, argues Nachiketa, having gained all the wealth a man can enjoy, they are available only till such time as he has not met with Lord Death. A dead man shall need no more, not even a penny out of his rich coffers.
So that another point he brought in, कि okay, fine, he's saying, जब तक आपसे नहीं मिलेंगे, moment, we know that you can't even take a needle with you when you go. So it's like, whatever you're going to give me, it's like, boom, finished.
This very same portion in the stanza can also be interpreted to mean that having met thee, O Lord Death, who can go back poor? Here it means that a mere darshan of the Lord Death is sufficient to bless the devotee with all material gains. And as such, Nachiketa means to say that it would be unwise to spend out this third boon for the blessing of a thing which he has already come to enjoy.
So everybody understood this concept, right? कि it's like, hey, सामने कौन खड़ा है ये देखो कि क्या दे सकता है वो, intelligently मांगो, and we have discussed that you go to a king who can give you, a kind of $1 million, and you are asking for 5 rupees. You're wasting your opportunity. So that's what he's saying, that hey, आपका दर्शन वैसे मेरे को ordinary चीजें तो वैसे ही मिल जाएगी, मेरे को कुछ बड़ा मांगना चाहिए ना आपसे. That's what it is. And then Swamiji has another example. Go ahead.
That is, it is indeed a criminal waste, almost amounting to madness, if a schoolmaster labors to gain an interview with the education minister only to request him for an appointment as a schoolmaster. Based upon the above argument, Nachiketa, the wise and discriminating seeker, firmly informs his teacher that the boon he had asked for is all that he demands of the master.
So it's pretty interesting, right? The logics that he gave, why he won, and that by doing that, we have to rethink about our priorities and life and things like that. That's what this is all about. And also from other perspective, and the next, I think 1 or 2 more verses, and then this Valli ends. I think 2 more verses are there. We might be able to do 1 more here. Where all this conversation will end, and the real thing will be starting. Okay, so we are inching towards that. Basically, they are showing that uska vivek और वैराग्य, ये 2 चीज बोलते चाहिए to get the self knowledge. Vivek and vairagya, uska already बहुत strong था. Vivek is trying to discriminate what is real and unreal. Vairagya is to get the dispassion, but dispassion cannot come until you have vivek. So vairagya cannot come until you have vivek. That's what it means. So he already had the 2 qualities that are pre-qualification needed. Any question, comment, or anybody wants to add anything on this verse? Okay. So the next one.
Would you add mumukshutvam at this point for him?
Mumukshutvam to be, yes, you can, definitely. Because his urgency, right? He wants that, and his focus on that.
His focus, that's
yes,
what I meant.
True,
so that
true.
is already, he wants that also.
Definitely. Mumukshutvam, yeah. And then, Meena ji, you can also tie कि जिसको विवेक और वैराग्य होगा उसी को मुमुक्षुत्वम भी होगा, right? ऐसा भी आप बोल सकते हो. Because अगर वो दोनों होगा तो उसके साथ ही चलता है मुमुक्षुत्वम. It's an automatic side thing that will happen, मुमुक्षुत्वम. Okay, so and now what happens in verse 28? He is going to say कि एक बार जब जैसे कि ये नचिकेता has come in a different dimension now, right? कोई स्वर्ग में जाके वापस आएगा, will he value so much these worldly things? He cannot, because what happens in the world, it's a changing and decaying and destroying things. All the Panch Mahabhut are like constantly changing, and our body also, it ages and all that, and disease and all that. The dharma of the body, they call it. Growing, and then disease and decay and death. So, and now that he has seen the better world, because in the Swargalok, and Yamraj is part of that higher world, वहाँ पर ये bodily decay वगैरह नहीं है. Everybody is always young and no. Have you ever seen, somebody like lying in bed and the doctor is coming in Swargalok? No, because they don't have that kind of body, So it's a more divine plane. So he's saying that एक बार अगर वो देख लिया फिर why would I want this other stuff? And I was trying to compare that in the worldly example, it's like a person, a teenager who's at 16 and he has got his driver license now, and the father brings a present. Remember when you were 5-year-old, you always wanted this electric car, or some electric means not Tesla, I'm talking about, but some small toy car, like you see. उसको वो देगा, वो will he value that? He'll say, throw it away, I want a real car, not this. So he's saying, after coming to this world, why would I want all those things that are going to decay and they are immortal? They're just going to finish. And even if you give me long life, still it's going to perish. That's why I don't want it. So it's kind of the same, but going a little deeper in it. And once you think about it, तो उसमें विवेक आ जाता है, like, विवेक and vairagya talking about once you have contemplated upon it, you will not want it. You will say, no, I don't want this. Because you have seen both sides and you've contemplated upon it. And the words used over here is, why would I want to revel in it? So what Tejomaya energy explains is, this reveling in the world, it has many deep aspects to it. It's like how we pamper our body. And before the class started, we were talking about makeup, right? And some of you commented here, we have pandemic में ना makeup we छोड़ दिया, तो छूट गया तो बड़ा freedom लगता है, that you don't have to, do this or that and all that, because you realize that, hey, it doesn't have that much value. There are other things we can do which are a lot more important. I'm not saying I'm discouraging anybody from putting on makeup, but I'm just giving an example that basically he's saying that why would anybody want to revel in the worldly things? And one of the points that what Tejomaya was saying, हम लोग इतना टाइम लगाते हैं अपनी बॉडी को पॉलिश करने में, मेडिक्योर, क्या बोलते हैं, पेडिक्योर, मैनिक्योर, ये है वो है, even men these days go for some of these things, and all that. And haircuts, now everybody is doing their own haircuts, and new talents are coming, but I gave a haircut to my husband, and my son said, who gave that haircut? I said, I did. He said, Mom, can you do that? I said, I didn't know I could do that, but I guess I can. I didn't know that. So that's what he's saying. Why would anybody revel in all this once you know something higher? That's what basically he's saying in this. So you can read more. Okay, so whoever has a book, it's verse 28. And it says, Ajirya tam amrutanam upetya jiryan martyah kvadhastha prajanana abhidhyayan varnarati pramodan atidirghe jivite ko ramet. Ajiryatam is the undecaying, means he came to a world of undecaying. Amrutanam, the immortal ones. Relatively speaking, these devatas were immortal. Upetya, having approached them. Jiryena, being perishable. Martya, the mortals. Martya is referring to the people who have to live on the earth. And the next word is very interesting. Kvadaha sthaha, existing on earth down below. So, उन्होंने ये special word use किया. So, and Tejomaya ji was opening up this word. Kwa means dharti, Ada means below, and Stha means to live in it. So he's calling this earth below level, lower level from that higher perspective. That's what he's calling the earth. Yeah?
So would that mean Patal?
No, not Patal. The one, our Loka. See, compared to the Swarga Loka, Niluji, this one has more issues, na? Because I was explaining that we get old and disease and die and all. Swarg Lok mein wo sab nahi hota hai. They don't have bodily afflictions. That's why isko lower bataya gaya. So, prajanana, well knowing. Abhidhyanam, having scrutinized. Uska dhyan karke means uska chintan karke, mananam karke. That after. Abhidhanam ho gaya, having varna, beauty, rati, love, pramodan, the enjoyment of, means wohi jo main bol rahi thi na, to revel in the worldly stuff, ati dirghe, in the long run. Jivite is life, ka is who, ramet will rejoice, who will remain in this. That's what he's saying.
I'll read it.
Kamala ji.
I'll read.
Sure. Go ahead, Kamala ji.
What decaying mortals living in the world below and possessed of knowledge, after having approached the company of the undecaying, is this undecaying?
Undecaying means jo decay.
Undecaying. Undecaying and the immortal will rejoice in the long life. After he has pondered over the nature of the pleasure produced by the song and sport, beauty and love. This stanza is not a pessimistic cry of despair that has risen up from a rotten mind and intellect steeped in sensuousness and ignorance, but is glorious song of optimism and knowledge born out of a healthy mind and a developed intellect basking in the glory of cloudless wisdom. In its very core, the words contain a burning satire at the human worms that gloat and revel in the leprous ditch of fleshy enjoyments and thus waste their precious heritage of true living as a god upon earth.
So you can see Swamiji, if they are very upfront, these Nachiketa in his words, Swamiji is 10 times more powerful when he makes his commentary. So he's saying that, and then basically just like a satire, कि how much people waste their time, जो आपको एक allotted time दिया गया है, whatever 70, 80, 100 years, उसमें कितना time तू बाकी चीज़ों में waste कर देते हो. Whereas you should be doing it for your spiritual progress. That's what he's bringing that. And the other point, one point that I missed was that these pleasures, they do give you some happiness and joy, like even Swamiji talks about. And that happiness and joy is actually coming from that higher source only. But the worldly things are temporary. But the bondage becomes longer. So you can enjoy all these things and it gives you a lot of pleasure, but under you get tied up with it. Bondage can go on for many lives, and that's how they bolte janam maran ka jo chakkar chalu hota hai na, that is a very dangerous side effect of this reveling in worldly things.
Nichiketa, while condemning the agonizing existence of the men of the world struggling to earn, striving to possess, laboring to hold, and hurrying to spend, has at once sympathetic understanding to find an excuse also for the societal mischief of mankind against itself. He says that, having approached the company of the underlying and the immortal, none will come to entertain any attachment or fascination for the destructible and the dying.
So it says, having approached the company of the undecaying and the immortal. So now we discuss those things. उसने स्वर्ग लोक आ गया वो, और उसने ये सब खुद अपनी आंख, पहले तो सुना ही था खाली उसने कि ऐसा होता है, बट अभी उसने अपनी आंखों से देख लिया कि यहाँ पर के लोग डिफरेंट हैं. तो he's saying, why would anybody want all those things?
Though all religions unanimously claim that man must learn to detach himself from his body-mind-intellect combination and its relationships, yet it is very rarely understood by the generality of people that this act of detachment can be a success only to a degree equal to the degree of attachment a seeker develops towards the inner truth principle, which guides and vitalizes not only the inner equipment as the knower, but also the outer world consciously cognized as the known.
Okay, this sounds very, very confusing here, but actually he's bringing that chapter 13 here of Kshetra and Kshetrajna. So basically he's saying that एक होता है knower और एक होता है known. So he's saying you are the knower, everything in this world is known, means उसको जाना जा सकता है, right? So usually हम बॉडी को ऐसा नहीं सोचते, but बॉडी भी is comes under known, जो जानने वाली चीज़ है. That's why I say my body. So what basically Vedanta is saying, that when you say I, actually it is the self, it's the Atma. So अपने लैंग्वेज में ना थोड़ा डिफरेंस है. इफ़ यू थिंक अबाउट इट, हिंदी के में हम बोलते हैं, जैसे अगर कोई डिप्रेस होता है तो हम लोग क्या बोलते हैं? बोलते हैं मेरा मन ठीक नहीं है. डोंट वी से दैट? मेरा मन घबरा रहा है. ऐसा नहीं, आई डोंट थिंक हिंदी में ऐसा वर्ड है कि मैं डिप्रेस्ड हूँ डायरेक्टली. आई थिंक, व्हाट डू यू गाइस थिंक? वी से हाँ, तो ऑलरेडी वो सेपरेशन है. Because the moment, say, oh, I am like this, it becomes so deep. But when you say मेरा मन घबरा रहा है, मन को ठीक भी किया जा सकता है फिर, you know.
मन दुखी भी तो हो सकता है.
Right. सही. तो what प्रेम जी I'm saying is, उसको हम लोग अपने से separate करके बोलते हैं. That's the point I'm trying to say. Yeah. क्योंकि जब बोलते हैं ना मैं दुखी हूँ, it kind of has a more deep psychological worst feeling. As I'm stuck in that thing. But when you say my mind, then I'm separating the mind and say, okay, mind can be, उसको fix भी कर सकते हैं because मैं mind नहीं हूँ. That's the point I'm trying to bring here. So yeah, known and knower, that's what he means by that. Okay. All right, go ahead, Kamalaji.
It is with this philosophical truth in mind that Nichiketa makes his statement, none can rejoice in the long life, with a conditional clause, when once he has approached the undecaying and the immortal.
So the difference between that world and this world is that we have this equipment that we identify with, and it is a changing thing constantly. There is more stability in that other world. Okay.
To attach ourselves to the divine is to detach ourselves from the undivine. To walk into light is to walk out of darkness. To swim on the shore is to move out of water. To wake up is to escape the dream. Thus, all true religions can be called either as the religion of attachment or as the religion of detachment, according to the emphasis that has been laid by the master in the Bible.
So he's kind of, the reason Swamiji refers a lot, because a lot of his devotees were American people at that time and they knew Bible, so he brought a lot of Bible thing in there. But basically, like one time somebody, this is a true story, and it's because little bit whatever he says, Swamiji still is a teaching for us. So one time, it seems that he was catching a bus or something, and he was मतलब एक उन्होंने पाँव ऊपर रखा था और तो कोई भागता हुआ आदमी आया, बोला स्वामी जी can you tell me Vedanta in 2 words? So he said attachment and then he got inside. So detached from the world, attached to the higher. So that's where it is coming. So he's saying that Vedanta in 2 words is nothing but you detach from body, mind, intellect and attach to the higher. And recently we had some program at our Chinmaya mission over here. So they have curriculum from like pre-K to 12th grade, right? So like little kids, talking some higher concept, but in their own way. It was so cute. So they are saying that my teacher says, be greedy for God. So then that other kid says, but I'm taught not to be greedy. They say, no, you should not be greedy for anything else in the world, but it's absolutely okay to be greedy for God. I thought that was so cute. That's what this is telling you. That attachment karna hi ho to higher ko karo. Baki sab faltu hai. Because that attachment is totally fine. In fact, one of the concept in Vedanta is that get attached to your guru. Not his physical body. Yeah? Attached to his teachings and things like that, or being maybe close to the guru, so he will give you more, So that's what it is that, Otherwise, some people, फिर वो खाली गुरु की आरती उतारती रहेंगे और वो जो बोल रहा है वो करेंगे ही नहीं. That's not what they're saying. So, but
saying I read that Sivananji, he was Chinmayananji's guru. He wrote 500 books. And after that, somebody asked him to summarize all his books. And he says in one sentence, attach, detach. Attached to God, detached from the world.
Now you know Chinmayananji ने भी कहाँ से सीखा, उन्हीं से तो सीखा होगा ये. उनके गुरु है तो obviously, because this is a guru shishya parampara, basically, So whenever they are saying something, they have learned it, And sometimes they add their own things also. So it's true, very much possible that it was originally by Shivananji. So anyway, this is what this verse is. Any question? Comment? Let's see the time. Yeah, it's already 12:30. So if you don't have anything directly related to this, we can close the class here and we can go for our other discussion. Anybody has anything to say about this or a comment? Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kashchit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.